Alright, so something crazy just happened. I'm not sure how to react to this. This has never happened yet on the channel. Welcome to the driving video of the all-new Nissan Ariya. Now, the last time I drove this car was frankly at the Le Mans racetrack, where I got to essentially floor it all the way around the track. Today I get to use it here, out on the real road, out on the real world, obeying the speed limit essentially. And let's be honest, this is where everybody's going to be using it as a compact family SUV. I'm going to be telling you all about the exterior design, the interior design, the Regen, the driving mode, and oh boy, that all-important Regen, which has seen some interesting changes from the Leaf. And something that completely surprised me, more on this in a second, is the efficiency numbers, because that's an important consideration. What is the real world driving range here in Malta on essentially city streets? So without any further ado, welcome to another episode of The Future is Electric. Now, of course, this is the second of a two-part series of videos about the Nissan Ariya. My tech-focused review, which I'm linking below if you haven't seen it, dives into the electric tech, the electric motor, which has seen some interesting changes in this car. Same thing with the battery when compared to the Leaf. So if you're interested about the technical side of the car, do check out that review linked below. But here we are in the real world. What are my first impressions? So I had briefly gotten into the car right when I drove it on the track, but today is more of the day where I got to spend a lot more time in it. And for me, the first thing I appreciated when I sat in it is how comfortable the seats are. And not necessarily this front seat, that back seat is arguably, from all the EVs I've tried, and we've seen quite a few on the channel now, I'd say the most comfortable. I don't know what it is. The foam is soft but yet still firm, and I don't know how it would fare on a longer road trip, right? The level of softness of the seat. But let me tell you, initial impressions, that's a good seat right there. The seat gets better, right? Because all four seats are heated, so you can control heated seats, each of the four of them. But a bit more about that later. Of course, what strikes you right away is the design of the vehicle. So this is a compact SUV segment. It goes direct in competition with last year's best-selling car, the Tesla Model Y, which frankly we don't have for sale here in Malta anyway. So this is a very popular and a very competitive segment in the electric vehicle field. So you really have to bring your A game if you want to stand out. And what's interesting here is this is a segment essentially Nissan created 12 or so years ago, right? Electrification. And here they are now coming back with their second passenger car. And frankly, the competition now is very tough. So, design of the outside. I love the design in particular. I like that if you do get a two-tone paint job, not the one I'm driving, but you can get a two-tone paint job. If the roof is black, it looks like the curves of the car are more like a coupe, but you're not getting the disadvantages of a coupe because the headroom at the back is actually pretty good. So I do like the design a lot. Visibility from the front, very good. In the rear, to be honest, not so much, but they do make up for it with this rear view mirror, which is an option, I have to say, where basically at the flick of a switch, the rear view mirror changes to a rear view camera. And that's not the camera on the floor, important I point out. That's not your standard reversing camera. That's another camera higher up in the car, and it gets you a very nice view of what's behind you. So I like that camera a lot, and I think it's going to be very practical, particularly if you're like carrying your whole family back there, right? It's not your view isn't going to be obstructed, right? So that's very, very nice to see. Let's jump a bit about this interior. So we've got two dual 12.3-inch screens, and Nissan speak quite a bit in detail in the documents about this vehicle, about the design layout they chose, which is basically two screens near each other. they haven't opted for the one center screen as a lot of brands are doing, and their reasoning for that, and I think they're right here, is the fact that with this orientation you tend to keep your eyes on the road better than, say, if your screen is somewhere down here, right? So I think that is a good design decision from that point of view. The screens are nice, they're bright, the graphics are good, not the best we've seen, but they're good. But the responsiveness I've seen a lot better. The display is a bit sluggish as you're using it, so definitely not a strong point over there. But with regards the rest of the materials in the car, starting from this fabric here and the center here, it's very, very nice, and it's minimalist, right? But at the same time, they give you enough controls and enough buttons to not make it feel like a Tesla where it's just the screen and you have to figure everything out from there. So definitely a very good balance here on what should be in the screen and what's available here, basically as a touch button. And they are touch buttons, they're integrated into the wood panel, very, very nice. You don't see them when the car is turned off, but the second you turn it on, basically they light up with LEDs, and they're very, very visible. Even on a bright sunny day like today, I can see them without a problem. So even though they're these backlit buttons, essentially they are touch, but you do get that little haptic feedback, just enough to know that you're actually hitting a button and not just the piece of wood itself. So that's very, very nicely done. Now let me tell you, the interior cabin space, as you'd expect with an electric vehicle, is very, very spacious. And of course this is sitting on all electric, built from the ground up architecture. So we have a flat floor at the back, flat floor in the front as well, bit rare that one. And it means the space in here, it does make you feel like you're in a bigger car than you actually are, which is obviously a very welcome thing. So very spacious, but at the same time, this is where I'm a bit shaky, right? The glove box is actually quite tiny. They do sort of compensate for that, for this very James Bond unique opening sort of middle cabinet here hidden away, right? So you have some extra storage there. There's a very cool center the armrest here, which covers a wireless phone charger, so that's nice. Your driving mode, the control of the cabinet I just showed you, all from here, as well as the e-pedal mode, which I'll talk about in a second. You've got cup holders which sort of hide away back here, and I like it. There's this little party trick that you can actually move this cabinet front and back with a little electric motor, which is nice. But at the same time, this is a very nicely designed unit, but what it lacks is storage once again. So there is nowhere you can open to throw stuff in. At least I haven't figured it out yet. I'll double check that, but I haven't managed to like put anything here. There's some storage area down here, sort of, but very, very small. Literally just enough to put another phone if your phone isn't in the wireless charger. So very nice design. Maybe on the storage part, not the best we've seen though. Alright, so let me tell you a bit about the driving mode. So we've got 3 driving modes to choose from. They're toggled from the center here by moving these arrows up or down. So the car starts off in standard, that's its default, but it does have a step down, so to speak, an eco mode, and you do feel the electric motor giving you less power when you select that mode. But of course, this is going to give you the most amount of range. On the other hand, if you don't want a lot of range and you don't want a lot of speed, you can go all the way up to sports mode, which obviously makes the car a lot more torquey and a lot more, accelerates a lot faster. Though I have to mention, because we always say this in the channel, I haven't driven an electric car yet which feels slow. So we compare 0 to 100 times, sure, and there are faster ones than others, but let me tell you, for the compact SUV family car segment that this is in, the acceleration here is plentiful, even in standard mode. All right, let's talk regen, right? So this is the car's ability to recharge the battery by using the momentum of the vehicle when you're decelerating to essentially use the electric motor in reverse as a dynamo and charge the battery. So we've got two regen modes available, right? We've got what they call their B mode. By pulling back here on the gear selector, it engages the B mode, and what this does is it gives a very subtle feeling of the car decelerating the second you lift off the accelerator pedal. This is very mild. If I was to start comparing a bit, I say it's even more mild than what we get, say, in the Stellantis EVs. So this is a very mild form of regen, but present nonetheless, right? What's nice about it is that when it's not engaged in the B mode, then we have a normal coasting feel, which I know some people like as well. But of course, Nissan were the people who invented, so to speak, the one pedal driving mode, known as their E-pedal mode, which I will now activate. And basically what this does is it allows you to use the car on one pedal. So as soon as you lift off that accelerator pedal, the regen is hard enough that it slows down the car quite a bit. And though, to my disappointment, and I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section as well, this does not fully stop the vehicle as we were used to before. So it decelerates, but the car does continue creeping forward, which, let me tell you, personally, I think I'd miss if I had this in my Leaf. So I'd like to hear your thoughts about this. I mean, it's still a good feature, don't get me wrong, it's done very nicely here, but it isn't, I would say, a true one pedal, right? The fact that now we essentially do not get the car to a complete halt. So of course, if you're looking for a car, the safety features of the car are going to be very important to you. And these days they come packed with safety features, right? And this car has been tested by NCAP, so they did do their crash tests and all the different tests they do. And it did score in 2022 a full 5-star rating, which means this is one of the safest vehicles on the road at the moment. Now, how does it achieve that score, right? So I was digging into the documentation released by Nissan, and you start to see from their level of thinking how they're putting safety at the forefront. So for example, in the front of the vehicle, right under the bonnet, we have the charger and electric motor. Right behind that, we have the air conditioning unit, which by design, the air conditioning unit itself actually has a lot of air inside it, which can act as a cushion in a front impact. And they actually designed it for that case. So they actually have two sets of bolts, which in a front impact collision are designed to give way. And they give way so that the air conditioning unit actually comes in between you and whatever you are hitting. And because there's a lot of air in that unit, that's going to suppress the impact quite a bit. So you can already start to see from how they're designing things that safety is very important here. We've got you could say all the technical computer safety features integrated. So for example, we have blind spot detection, which is that little light which turns on in the mirror whenever something is in your blind spot, just in case you haven't noticed it's there. We have auto lane keep and lane assist, so the car is reading the lines on the road and will keep you within the lane if you start to drift off. And we have automatic emergency braking, both forwards and in reverse. Okay, so if a cyclist, if a pedestrian, another car suddenly brakes in front of you or is right in your collision zone, the car will automatically slam on those brakes and bring you to a stop. And they do test this at NCAP, and it's very impressive to see it working. They even do some tests where say a pedestrian, they use a dummy, right? So don't worry, where the pedestrian comes out from between cars and the car manages to stop nonetheless. So it's very impressive to see this in action, so to speak. So the safety features are definitely up there with this car. All right, so something crazy just happened. Basically, I just finished a long drive, 1 hour, 10-minute more or less drive, and I drove 42.5 kilometers. That's roughly the entire length of Malta. 41 kilometer per hour average speed, so that's a bit on the higher end. Actually, usually our average speed in Malta is around 25 kilometers per hour. But this took me by surprise, right? Because I have an efficiency number here, real world driving efficiency of 13.2 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Now this is the bigger battery variant Ariya, so it's the larger battery, 87 kilowatt hour usable, which is just huge, right? But what does this 13.2 actually mean? Well, it means we can calculate the real world driving range based on the conditions I had today, which, by the way, 21 degrees Celsius. I ran the car in standard driving mode with the air conditioning turned on. So as you would be using it. So no eco mode, no air conditioning off, as you would be using it. So as we said, 87 kilowatt hour usable battery pack. If I divide that by the 13.2 kilowatt hour per 100 efficiency I'm seeing here and multiply up by 100, I essentially achieved a range of 654 kilometers, which is ludicrous. So the WLTP of this car, large battery, should be 519 kilometers. This just goes to show how conservative that number is, right? Because based on real world data here, 654 kilometers. I'm not sure how to react to this. This has never happened yet on the channel because we've vastly exceeded the WLTP range here. So obviously on longer trips this will change. If you're driving in another country or in colder weather, this will change. But I use the car in the Maltese conditions, ideal temperature 21 degrees, air conditioning on, standard mode, and as you saw, we vastly exceed WLTP. I don't think even the car believes it, because the car is saying with 82% battery, right? It's estimating I can go another 390 kilometers. So not even the car is believing, so to speak, that we're going to get 650 kilometers of range. If you have an Ariya, let us know in the comments below what your real world efficiency is, because these are fantastic numbers. Guys, so that brings to an end the driving video of the new Nissan Ariya. If you haven't seen that tech review, the link is in the description below, so you can learn more about the technical aspect of this vehicle. And if you want to see my experience driving this car on the Le Mans racetrack, that video series with the Nissan Formula E team is also being linked below. That was quite an experience to remember. But as always, I'm Luke. Special thanks to Nissan for supporting this video, and if you want to help support the channel, you can check out the merch store available below, so you can get yourself a Futures Electric hoodie or t-shirt, so that's there as well. And of course, subscribe and you can join as a member, paying a very small amount per month, less than you pay for parking every day, right? And that really helps the channel growing further, so I do appreciate your support over there as well. But as always, I hope me and the new Nissan Ariya on the road have convinced you that the future is electric.